Alright, so there's going to be a video about how to format for MLA in Word. Now, typically I would be using the desktop version, but most students might not have that, and most students for free will get access to Word 365. Usually that's attached to just an email, so if you just open your email and go to more apps, it's usually right in there. So you can open it up and then select a blank document, and this is what you get. So once you're here and you want to start with MLA, usually the first thing that you want to do is you want to get all of your basics down. So making sure that you have the right font and that it's the right size. Default's always going to be Calibri 11, so just make sure that you start right there. Change that to Times New Roman, 12-point font, and then you've got that done, so that's pretty easy. Next thing you want to start with is your header, your MLA header. Not to be confused with your other header, which we'll get to a little bit later. But here it is just going to be your name. It is going to be the name of your professor. And you want to use whatever name they give you. So if it's doctor, then use doctor. If it's professor, professor, instructor, just whatever it is that they have you refer to them as. After that, the name of the class, 1101. And then the date. This is something that students mess up. Sometimes it seems unimportant, but formats exist for a reason. So with your date, what you want to do is you want to have, I already messed it up, look at that. You want to have the day, followed by the month, followed by the year, in that order. Now there's other ways to write out a date. So you could do 12/5. 2023, you could do December 15th, 2023. Both of those are appropriate ways to write a date, unless it's an MLA. So you want to do the day, the month, fully spelled out, and then the year. No commas in there at all. All right, so that part should be pretty easy. And then moving on from there, you want to put in your title. Sometimes students forget titles, but you need to make sure that you do have one for MLA. Again, it's just part of the format, so it does need to be there. Now, for that title, what you're going to want to do is make sure that it's centered. You can click on alignment, select center, and just type in the name of your essay. So as a general rule, everything needs to be uppercase except for articles and conjunctions. So, and, but, so, for, from, those words you would have lowercase in a title. All right, now with that done, you get to start with the body paragraphs. And there, again, make sure that you keep those body paragraphs aligned left and not center. I see this happen sometimes where students do the title and they center that. Then they start their body paragraphs and they just never change the alignment back to left for the body paragraphs. The title is the only part of your paper that needs to be centered. And one more point on that, you want to make sure that your title isn't in bold, right? It isn't underlined, it isn't in italics. I know students like to do bold or underline just to add emphasis, but that's not part of the format, and doing that could cost you points on an essay. So just try to avoid that impulse to make it look neater. Just don't do it. Once you get down here to your body paragraphs, the main thing that you want to have for these, besides aligning it left, is to have the proper indent. Now, some students will just hit space. Most students will just hit space a bunch to get the indent and then just start writing from there. You can do that, I guess, but you're not always going to get the 0.5 inches that you need for a proper indent. All right, so since we're not doing that, what we are going to do is we're going to go to our paragraph settings, and you can find those right here on your taskbar. If you go to the far right side and click these three dots right there, it'll bring this up, and you just select paragraph options from there. Now there's a few things that you want to do while you're here. First of all, you're going to want to change your line spacing to double. MLA does need to be double spaced. And you want to change your after spacing to 0. If you keep that after spacing at 8, what's going to happen is that it's going to add extra spaces between some of your lines and between all of your paragraphs. which means that overall your paper is not going to be double spaced. If you do the math, it'll be like on average 1.976 space or something. And it needs to be evenly doubled. So just make sure that you change that to 0. You can also select this box right here to not add space between paragraphs of the same style. And that has the exact same effect as changing this after and before spacing to 0. But I find that it's easier to just put that 0 value in manually just so that you know it's going to function the way you need it to. And the last thing while we're here is to add our indents. Under special, first line indent is what you want. It'll automatically set it to 1/2 inch. And now you can see that the cursor moved, and now we don't have to worry about that. This is the opening paragraph of the essay. And when you have it like this, when you hit enter, it is going to automatically retain that formatting. So you don't have to go back and keep hitting space to get your indent right or keep tabbing over every time you go to a new line. It'll just keep that for you. So you don't have to think about it at this point anymore. All right, so this is mostly done. The last thing that you want to have for MLA formatting is your page numbers. This is way easier in desktop, but here in Office 365, you actually have to come over here to where this little tab is. You hover over it, it sticks out, you click on it, and it opens up these 3 little boxes. So this dictates whether the text you put in is going to be on the left side, in the center, or on the right side. And your page numbers need to go on the right side. So the 3rd box is the one that you're going to click in. This is usually the hardest part for students to get because your instinct is to just type in like a number, but that's not going to work. Instead, you want to come up here to the top. You want to go to Insert, and you want to select Page Numbers. Right? And so you just add those page numbers onto the right side of the header, and that's going to put this little icon in here for you. It looks weird. It looks like it shouldn't work. It looks like you inserted your page numbers wrong. You didn't. That's what it's supposed to look like in 365. You've done it right, which means all you have left to do is add your last name in front of that page number, and make sure you have a space between the last name and the opening of these brackets. Your last name and page number shouldn't be just one word. And then there's one last thing, one little piece of housekeeping that you want to remember. Your page numbers also need to be in 12 point Times New Roman. So go ahead and select that, click back at home, and change that to Times New Roman, change it to 12 point font, and that covers it. Once you click out of here, your page numbers aren't going to show in the header, but trust me, they're still there. They haven't gone anywhere. If you feel unsafe about it, you can always just click back in there before you save a document just to check and make sure it's still there. Additionally, once you go to File and decide to save it, export it, save as a PDF, when you open up that PDF, you'll be able to double check and see if those page numbers have been retained if you're worried about that. So learning how to do MLA manually is really important. There are templates that you can use. They're there for Word, but those templates often have formatting that makes it difficult to actually work within the document. Sometimes they include charts or pictures and a whole bunch of other tools that you might not actually want for your paper. And getting rid of those and reformatting and making sure that everything is the way it needs to be can be a hassle. So I always recommend that everybody just learn how to do MLA formatting manually. It doesn't take that long if you know what you're doing, and it's definitely a skill worth learning in any writing class that you're taking.